My name is Emily, and I'm the youngest of 5 kids. Mike, Chris, Rachel, Josh, and I. We never really felt like a cohesive family. By the time I started forming memories, they were already adults. Mike was the cool oldest brother. Chris was more serious. Rachel was the one I looked up to the most, and Josh, though closest to me in age, still kept his distance. I sometimes felt like I was just an afterthought, more like a kid no one really had to worry about. They were all moving on with their lives, and I was still a kid trying to fit in. But even with all that, I loved them. When you're the youngest, your older siblings are everything. They're like superheroes. I thought Mike was amazing, and I always hoped Rachel would take me under her wing, show me how to navigate life like she did. And Josh, even though he was the closest to me in age, seemed to have his own life and didn't really treat me as an equal. I didn't mind, at least not at first. Then, the first time it really hit me how much I didn't matter to them was when Mike got married. I was 10 years old. 10 at that age. You're old enough to feel left out, but still too young to be included in grown-up things. When Mike and his fiancée Sarah announced they were having a child-free wedding, I assumed that didn't mean me. I mean, I wasn't some random kid who'd throw food or scream during the vows. I was his sister. I remember it so clearly, the day my parents sat me down to break the news. I'd been so excited, I even asked my mom if I could wear one of her necklaces to the wedding. And that's when she said it. Mike and Sarah are having an adults-only wedding. Emily, you're not going to be able to come. I stared at her, trying to process it. But I'm not like other kids, I reasoned. I'll be quiet. I promise. She patted my head like I was a puppy, almost dismissively. It's just for adults, sweetie. You'll understand when you're older. But I didn't understand at all. I cried in my room for hours. Mike was my brother, and I wanted to be there for him, to watch Sarah, who I had already started thinking of as my sister, walk down the aisle. Instead, my parents left me with a babysitter. I remember staring at the clock that day, imagining everything I was missing. When Mike returned from his honeymoon, I thought maybe he'd bring it up, maybe apologize for not inviting me, or share some funny story from the wedding. But he didn't. He acted like I wasn't even a part of it. I wasn't even worth acknowledging. 2 years later, Chris got engaged. I was 12 by then, and I thought things would be different. I was older now, quieter, and very well behaved. I didn't whine or cause a fuss. I made sure everyone knew it. So when they announced that his wedding would also be child-free, I thought, okay, but this time I'll be invited. Nope, same thing. They told me the wedding was adults only. My parents told me, and this time, I tried to stay calm. I didn't beg, I didn't scream. I just sat there, quietly, while my mom even tried to comfort me. You'll have your own wedding one day, and it will be wonderful. You'll see. But that didn't make me feel better. It just made me realize more and more that my siblings didn't see me as family, not in the way I saw them. When Rachel got engaged, I was 15. I was a teenager by then, starting to figure things out on my own, desperately wanting to be included in my siblings' lives. At first, Rachel didn't even plan to have a child-free wedding. She wanted everyone to be there. But, as always, family got involved. My aunts and uncles made comments like, "It's so nice to have a wedding without kids running wild," or "Children just make things so chaotic." Eventually, Rachel caved. The rule became no one under 16. I was 15, so close, but still not old enough. It felt like a slap in the face. I went to Rachel and asked, "Can I just be an exception? I'm your sister. I'll be quiet, I promise." She looked at me, serious, and said, "If I make an exception for you, what about the other kids? It wouldn't be fair." "Fair?" I snapped. "Are you kidding me?" I started yelling. "It's not fair that I can't go to any of your weddings. I'm not just some kid, I'm your sister." That's when my parents got involved. I got grounded for 6 months for disrespecting Rachel and causing drama. 6 months. I spent most of that time in my room, stewing in my anger and hurt. I couldn't believe how everything had unfolded. By the time Josh got engaged, when I was 17, I didn't even bother asking. I already knew I wouldn't be invited. Sure enough, the announcement came, child-free wedding. At that point, I was numb to it. I didn't cry, didn't yell. I didn't even ask why. I just accepted it. But what really stung was that my cousin Amanda, who was only a few months older than me, was invited. I heard through the family grapevine that apparently 18 was the magical age to be considered an adult. The irony wasn't lost on me. She was the same age I had been when they excluded me. But because she was 18, she got an invite. When my parents asked why I didn't congratulate Josh or make a big deal of it, I just shrugged. I sent him a quick text, "Congrats. Hope it's a great day." Then I locked myself in my room, like I always did. By then, I had started to emotionally check out. I realized I didn't matter to them. I wasn't their little sister. I was just a kid they barely thought about, and it hurt. It really, really hurt. I spent years trying to fit into my siblings' lives, but eventually, I stopped. I was tired. Tired of being the kid sister no one cared about. Tired of being the one left out, unless it was convenient for them. By the time I met Tyler, my now fiancé, I had pretty much checked out emotionally from my family. I didn't expect much from anyone anymore. Tyler was the first person who actually listened when I told him about my family. I remember sitting on his couch, telling him about how I'd been banned from 4 of my siblings' weddings. He looked shocked. "Wait," he said, "they didn't invite you? Not even when you were like 15? "Nope," I said, trying to act like it didn't still hurt. "What the hell?" he said, shaking his head. "You're their sister." It was at that moment that I realized how messed up everything had been. For years, I had convinced myself it was normal. Child-free weddings made sense on paper, right? But no, not once had they thought, hey, Emily should be there. It wasn't normal. When Tyler and I got engaged, I knew one thing for certain: my wedding would be different. My wedding was going to be full of people who cared about me, people who wanted to celebrate me, not just show up because it was expected of them. That's when I made my decision. I wasn't inviting my siblings. It wasn't a dramatic, angry moment. I didn't send them a long letter or announce it in the family group chat. I just didn't send them invitations. It was as simple as that. I knew it would blow up eventually. But I figured I'd cross that bridge when I got there. And sure enough, about 2 months before the wedding, the first sign of trouble came. My mom called me randomly one afternoon, acting weirdly chipper. "So, Emily," she said in that voice she always used when she wanted something, "how are the wedding plans coming along?" "Good," I said cautiously. "Everything's almost done." "That's great," she said, pausing before adding, "Your brothers and sister haven't gotten their invitations yet. Did you send them out already?" My heart started pounding. I didn't want to have this conversation, not yet. "Yeah," I said, trying to sound casual. "I sent them out." She didn't miss a beat. "Well, they didn't get one. Maybe it got lost in the mail." I sighed, trying to stay calm. "Mom, I didn't invite them." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then came the explosion. "What? Emily, how could you not invite your own family? Your siblings? What's wrong with you?" I gripped the phone, trying to stay calm. "They didn't invite me to their weddings, Mom. Not a single one of them. So I'm returning the favor. It's fair." She was silent for a moment, then she hit me with the guilt trip. "Emily, you're being spiteful. Family is family. You don't just shut them out like this. What are people going to think?" There it was. What will people think? My mom's favorite concern. I cut her off before she could say anything else. "I don't care what people think, Mom. This is my wedding, and I'm only inviting people who care about me. They didn't care enough to include me in their big days, so I don't see why they deserve to be at mine." And with that, I hung up. I wasn't surprised. That night, the group chat blew up. "Hey, Em," Rachel texted first, pretending to be casual. "Did something happen with the mail? We haven't gotten our invites yet." Chris was blunt. "As always, what's going on? Why aren't we invited?" I stared at my phone for a long time, debating whether to reply. Part of me wanted to lay it all out, tell them exactly how much they'd hurt me over the years, but another part of me didn't see the point. They wouldn't get it. They never had. So, I didn't say anything. I just left the chat on read. Tyler noticed I was quiet during dinner and asked what was wrong. I showed him the messages, and he shook his head. "You don't owe them an explanation, Em. They made their choices." "Yeah," I thought. "But they're going to make me out to be the bad guy. I know it." "Let them," he said firmly. "You know the truth. That's all that matters." And for the first time in a long while, I felt like I finally had the courage to stand up for myself. The next day, I expected the drama to die down. I thought maybe my siblings would grumble about it for a while, complain to some distant relatives, and eventually move on. That's usually how things went when my family didn't get their way. But I had seriously underestimated how big of a deal they were going to make out of this. It started small. Rachel, of course, couldn't resist posting a passive-aggressive status on Facebook. "Family is forever, even when some people forget what that word means." I rolled my eyes so hard I thought they might get stuck. Tyler was sitting next to me on the couch when I showed him the post. He shook his head. "What is she? 14, he muttered. I couldn't help but laugh. I told myself it didn't matter. After all, I knew the truth. And I knew I wasn't doing anything wrong. But it still bugged me. It's hard not to feel hurt when your own sister goes out of her way to take shots at you publicly. It didn't stop there. Over the next few days, I noticed more and more little jabs showing up in our extended family group chat. I had muted it a long time ago. But Tyler still checked his phone. One afternoon, he looked over at me and said, Emily, you might want to see this. The messages are flying. Rachel had started it. It's so sad when family starts prioritizing petty grudges over love. Chris, ever the blunt one, chimed in next. I just don't understand. I thought we were better than this. And then, good old Mike the eldest, the one who always thought he knew best, to take his shot. I never realized how much bitterness you've been holding on to, Emily. It's really sad. You're ruining relationships over something that happened years ago. I stared at the screen, my blood boiling. They didn't get it. They still didn't get it. They made it sound like I was the one blowing a minor issue out of proportion. As if they hadn't spent my entire life excluding me, treating me like I didn't matter. I wanted to reply, I wanted to type out every single thing they had done to me, and make them see how hypocritical they were being, but I knew better. Arguing with them would only give them more ammunition. They'd spin my words into me being dramatic, unstable, or whatever else they could say to avoid taking responsibility. So, I did the one thing they never expected. I left the group chat. That night, my mom called me. I knew she'd heard about the group chat incident because she jumped straight into yelling the second I answered. Emily, what is wrong with you? I sighed. Hi, Mom. Don't start with that attitude, she snapped. Do you know what you've done? Your siblings are heartbroken. You're destroying this family. Heartbroken? The first couldn't help but laugh bitterly. They ignored me my entire childhood. But now they're heartbroken? Give me a break. You're being so spiteful, she said. You've always been like this, holding on to grudges and making everything about you. That's when I lost it. I'm the one holding grudges, Mom. I was 10 when Mike got married. 10. I cried because I wanted to be there, and you all told me I didn't matter enough to be included. And it didn't stop there. It happened again and again and again. I begged to be at Rachel's wedding, and she told me no because it wouldn't be fair. I could hear her trying to dismiss it. That was years ago, she said, almost bored with the conversation. Yeah, and I'm still living with the way it made me feel. I shouted. You all decided I wasn't important enough back then. Why should you suddenly get a front row seat to my life now? She didn't have an answer to that. Instead, she tried to flip the script. This isn't about the weddings, Emily. This is about you pushing everyone away because you're bitter. Tyler's probably encouraging you, isn't he? I groaned. Mom, stop blaming Tyler. This has nothing to do with him. This is about me finally realizing I deserve better than to be treated like I don't matter. Her voice softened, like she was trying to play the concerned mother. Emily, you don't understand. Family is all you'll have in the end. Friends and partners come and go, but your family is forever. No, I said firmly. Family is supposed to care about you. They're supposed to love and support you. That's not what you've been to me. She started crying big, dramatic sobs that I knew were more about guilt-tripping me than anything else. You'll regret this one day, Emily, she said through her tears. You'll see. I don't think I will, I said quietly, before hanging up. Over the next week, things only got worse. I blocked Rachel and Chris on social media because I couldn't take the constant snide comments. My mom called Tyler twice, apparently hoping to talk sense into him. He didn't answer. Then Mike sent me an email, yes, an actual email about forgiveness and family unity. He even had the nerve to quote some Bible verse about letting go of anger. I didn't respond. Tyler and I sat down one night, and I vented about everything. It's like they're determined to pretend I'm the problem. They don't see how messed up it is that they ignored me for years, and now they're flipping out because I finally stood up for myself. Tyler nodded, his voice calm but serious. You know what it is? They're not mad that they weren't invited. They're mad that they don't get to control you anymore. His words hit me like a punch to the gut. He was right. My whole life, my family had treated me like an afterthought, someone they could dismiss whenever it suited them. But now that I was doing something for myself, something they couldn't control, they couldn't handle it. They'll get over it eventually, I said, though I wasn't sure I believed it. Tyler gave me a small, understanding smile. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But either way, it's not your problem. And for the first time, I realized that he was right. I didn't owe them anything, not my time, not my attention, and certainly not an invitation to my wedding. A week later, my dad sent me a short, guilt-laden text. Emily, your mom isn't doing well. She's really upset about all of this. Maybe you could reconsider? I stared at it for a long time before replying. Maybe she should have thought about that before ignoring me all those years. Then I hit send and blocked his number. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. The weeks leading up to my wedding were a strange mix of excitement and tension. On one hand, I was thrilled to finally marry Tyler, and have the day I'd always dreamed of. On the other hand, the drama with my family still lingered, like an unwelcome guest. My parents had stopped calling me directly, probably because I'd blocked my mom's number after her last meltdown. But that didn't stop other people from trying to make me feel guilty. Aunt Linda, who I hadn't spoken to in years, called me out of the blue. I was immediately suspicious when I saw her name pop up on my phone. I answered, and she got straight to the point. "Emily, honey, I don't understand why you're making such a big deal out of this," she said, her voice dripping with that sweet but condescending tone. "Family is family. It's not right to leave your siblings out of your wedding." I sighed, gripping the phone a little tighter. "Aunt Linda, it's not just about the wedding. This has been years in the making. I'm not going to change my mind. But it's family," she pressed, like that word was supposed to fix everything. I took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. Being the bigger person doesn't mean letting people walk all over you. It's about knowing when to put yourself first. There was a pause on the other end of the line. I could hear her sigh dramatically. "Well, I just hope you don't regret this one day, or you're going to miss your family and they won't be there." I didn't say anything. I just hung up. The morning of the wedding, I woke up feeling a strange combination of peace and nerves. It wasn't the normal "what if something goes wrong" kind of wedding jitters. It was more like I was waiting for a shoe to drop. I knew my family wasn't invited, but I couldn't shake the feeling that they'd find a way to insert themselves into the day somehow. But Tyler, being the amazing guy he is, refused to let me dwell on it. When I told him about my worries as we got ready separately, he just smiled and said, "This day is about us. Nothing else matters. If anyone tries to ruin it, I'll personally escort them out." That made me laugh, and for the first time in weeks, I felt lighter. The venue we chose was perfect. It was small and intimate, a garden surrounded by flowers, twinkling lights strung through the trees, and a little gazebo where we'd say our vows. I didn't want a giant, elaborate wedding. I wanted something that felt real and full of love, and that's exactly what it was. As I stood in front of the mirror, putting the final touches on my dress, my maid of honor, my best friend Jenna, walked in and grinned. "You look amazing, Em." "Thanks," I said softly, feeling a wave of emotions. Jenna sat on the edge of the couch and watched me for a moment. "Are you okay?" I hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, I'm just, I don't know. Sad, I guess. Not about today. Today is perfect, but about the fact that my family isn't here." She frowned and leaned forward. "Emily, it's okay to feel that. Just because you made the right choice doesn't mean it doesn't hurt." Her words hit me hard. I turned to look at her, tears welling up in my eyes. I wanted them to care, you know? I wanted them to fight for me when I was a kid, and they never did. Jenna stood up and hugged me tightly. "You don't need their approval. You have people who love you. Focus on that." I nodded, taking a deep breath. She was right. Today wasn't about my family, it was about me and Tyler. The ceremony started, and I was so overwhelmed by the beauty of it all that I forgot about everything else. I remember standing at the end of the aisle, staring at Tyler, and thinking, this is it. This is what happiness feels like. As I walked toward him, I felt a sense of freedom wash over me. I wasn't the forgotten little sister anymore. I wasn't the kid who begged to be included and got turned away. He was a bride, surrounded by people who truly loved me and wanted to see me happy. The vows were perfect. Tyler promised to love me, protect me, and always stand by my side, and I promised the same. By the time we said I do, there wasn't a dry eye in the audience, mine included. The reception was everything I'd hoped for. We laughed, we ate, we danced until our feet hurt. My friends toasted to us, sharing funny stories and heartfelt wishes for our future. Tyler's parents, who had always been so kind to me, told me they were proud to have me as part of their family. At one point, I snuck away from the crowd just to take it all in. I stood at the edge of the garden, looking at the lights twinkling in the trees and the people laughing together, and I felt so full. For so many years, I'd believed the lie my family told me that I didn't matter, that I wasn't important enough to be part of their lives. But standing there, watching all these people who truly cared about me, I realized something important. I mattered to the people who actually deserved to know me. Later that night, as the reception began to wind down, one of my cousins pulled me aside. "Hey, Emily, I probably shouldn't say this, but..." She hesitated, looking almost sheepish. "What is it now?" I asked, a little confused. She glanced around to make sure no one else was listening, and then said in a low voice, "Your mom and Rachel apparently threw some kind of dinner tonight, as an alternative to your wedding." I stared at her for a second, trying to process what she was saying. Then, without warning, I burst out laughing. "Are you serious?" I managed to say, still chuckling. She nodded, looking a little uncomfortable. "I know, it's pathetic. I just thought you should know. I shook my head, laughing even harder. That's fine. Let them throw their pity party. I hope the food's good. I could tell my cousin expected me to be upset, but honestly, I wasn't. If anything, it just made me feel more confident in the decision I had made. My family had spent my entire life excluding me, and now that I was drawing a boundary, they couldn't handle it. This was their mess to deal with, not mine. After the conversation, I went back to Tyler, who had been chatting with some friends at the bar. As I approached him, I could tell he was waiting for me to fill him in. Anything interesting? He asked, raising an eyebrow. I just smiled. Apparently they're trying to recreate my wedding in their own way. It's almost impressive how hard they're trying to make this all about them. Tyler snorted, shaking his head. Yeah, it's really something. But, hey, this your day. Let them do what they want. I nodded, feeling a sense of calm wash over me. It was clear that nothing I did was going to change their need for drama, but I wasn't going to let them steal the joy of my special day. The reception continued, and for the first time in a long time, I could just enjoy myself, without constantly thinking about what my family was doing or saying. Tyler and I shared a few quiet moments, just the two of us, and I realized something. This was the happiest I had ever felt. I wasn't begging for attention. I wasn't trying to make people care about me. I was just being myself, surrounded by the people who truly mattered. The evening was perfect in every way. People toasted to our future, and we danced the night away. It felt like everything I had ever dreamed of. And then some. By the time the last song played and the guests began trickling out, I was exhausted, but in the best possible way. We stood outside the avenue for a while, taking it all in the soft glow of the fairy lights, the sound of laughter fading into the distance. The warmth of Tyler's hand in mine. I looked up at him and smiled. This is perfect, I said softly. It really is, he replied, his voice full of sincerity. I'm so happy we did this, Em. It's just the beginning. And for the first time, I truly believed him. This wasn't just a one-time thing. This was the start of something real. Something that was all mine, and no one could take that away from me. As we drove home that night, the weight of the whole experience began to sink in. I had spent so many years trying to get my family's approval, trying to make them see me as important. For years, I had felt small and insignificant, like I didn't matter in the grand scheme of things. But now, I knew I didn't need their approval to feel validated. I didn't need their love to be enough. I had people in my life who actually cared about me, Tyler, my friends, people who showed up for me every day. That was what mattered. I didn't need my family's permission to be happy anymore. The next few days were a blur of wedding bliss. Tyler and I spent our days packing up gifts, sending thank yous, and settling into our new life together. But as the dust settled, I knew there was more to this than just the wedding itself. I had made a decision, and I wasn't going to back down from it, no matter how my family tried to manipulate or guilt-trip me. Then, just as I thought I could finally breathe and move on, the texts started pouring in. The first one came from Rachel, a week after the wedding. Of course, it was Rachel, the one who always seemed to be the first to throw a stone when it came to family drama. I saw some pics from your wedding. She wrote. I can't believe you had it in a garden. It looked casual, but I guess that's what you wanted. I stared at the message for a moment, stunned. Of course she couldn't even pretend to be nice. It wasn't enough for her to just leave me alone, she had to find something to criticize. I was tempted to respond with something snarky. Maybe something about how her wedding might have been fancier, but at least mine wasn't full of fake smile sand people who didn't care about me. But then I stopped myself. I didn't know her anything. I didn't need to respond to her, or anyone else. A few days later, I started getting messages from extended family members I hadn't heard from in years. Apparently, Rachel, Mike, and Chris were on some kind of campaign to paint me as the villain. My Aunt Linda, yes. The same one who had tried guilt-tripping me before the wedding, sent me yet another message. Emily, she wrote, I don't know what happened between you and your siblings, but they're really hurt. Rachel says she tried to reach out and you're ignoring her. Maybe it's time to let go of the past. I rolled my eyes and sighed deeply. How many times do I have to explain this to them? I muttered, showing Tyler the message. He glanced at it, unimpressed. They're hurt? Hurt because they can't control you anymore? I smiled faintly. He wasn't wrong. I just don't get it, I said, scrolling through the messages. They ignored me for years. I've begged to be included in their lives. And they shut me out. Now suddenly, I'm the bad guy for setting boundaries. That's how it always goes, Tyler said softly. When you start protecting yourself, the people who hurt you are the first ones to cry about it. I nodded, feeling a sense of frustration start to build again. But then Tyler said something that really stuck with me. You know, they'll keep trying to pull you back in. But they're not your problem anymore. That hit me like a ton of bricks. For the first time, I realized that I didn't have to carry the weight of their drama. They could keep making me out to be the villain, but that didn't change the truth. And the truth was, I didn't need them to be happy. The real low point came a few days later, when my mom showed up unannounced. It was a Sunday afternoon, and Tyler and I were having a lazy day, making brunch in our pajamas and laughing over burnt pancakes. We heard a knock at the door, and I froze. I knew exactly who it was. Sure enough, when I opened the door, there stood my mom, looking dramatic as ever. "Emily," she said, her voice already carrying that familiar tone of disappointment. "We need to talk." I sighed, already feeling me patience wearing thin. "Mom, now isn't a good time." She didn't care. She pushed the door open slightly, trying to step inside. Tyler appeared behind me, gently putting his hand on my shoulder for support. "Emily, please," she continued, her voice dripping with that same guilt-inducing tone. "This has gone far enough. Your siblings are devastated." "Devastated?" the first said, clenching my jaw, trying to keep my voice calm. "Do you really think this is how family should act?" I wasn't backing down. "Not this time. You don't get to show up here and lecture me, Mom. I invited the people who care about me to my wedding. They didn't make the cut, and that's their fault, not mine." Her face fell into that familiar look of disbelief, as though she couldn't comprehend how I could possibly stand up to her. "You don't mean that," she said, voice trembling. "They love you, Emily. They're your family." "No, Mom," I said firmly, meeting her eyes. "Family doesn't make you feel small. Family doesn't leave you out when you're a kid and then demand to be part of your life, when it's convenient for them. I spent my entire life trying to prove I mattered to them, and they never cared. I'm done." For once, she was speechless. I could see the anger and sadness flashing across her face, but I wasn't going to be manipulated anymore. Tyler stepped forward, his voice gentle but strong. "I think it's time for you to leave." My mom looked between the two of us, her face a mix of anger and sadness. "You'll regret this, Emily," she said softly, almost as if delivering a prophecy. "You'll miss us one day, and we won't be there." I met her eyes, unflinching. "No, Mom. I won't." Tyler gently closed the door behind her, and for a moment I just stood there, trying to process everything. I thought I'd feel guilty, but I didn't. I felt relieved. The next day, I got a text from Chris. "Mom said she came to talk to you." "And you slammed the door in her face." "Real mature, Emily. You've turned into someone I don't even recognize." I read the message aloud to Tyler, who shook his head. "Block him," he said firmly. "You don't need that." And I did. One by one, I blocked every sibling and relative who decided to pull onto the guilt train. I realized something important that day. I didn't owe them my time, my energy, or even an explanation. For years, they made me feel invisible. Now, I was taking control. The weeks that followed were quiet. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the constant pressure from my family's drama. It was like I could finally breathe. Tyler and I focused on settling into married life, decorating our apartment, planning for our future. One night, as we sat on the couch watching a cheesy movie, Tyler turned to me and asked, "Do you regret it at all? Not having them at the wedding?" I thought about it for a moment before shaking my head. "No. I thought I would, but I don't. I spent so long trying to earn their approval. And for what? I don't miss them. I don't miss feeling like I'm not good enough." Tyler smiled and squeezed my hand. "Good. You deserve better." And for the first time, I believed him. I did deserve better. A month after the wedding, I thought everything was finally settling down. Tyler and I were enjoying our new life together, quiet mornings, cozy evenings, and the feeling that, for the first time in forever, we were living life on our own terms. I thought my family's drama was over, but of course, I was wrong. It came as no surprise when I received a final message from Rachel. She had sent it from a different number, since I had already blocked her. "You've destroyed this family, Emily. I hope you're happy." I stared at the message for a long time, my finger hovering over the screen. There it was again. The blame. The guilt trip. But this time, I didn't even feel angry. I just felt done. I had spent too many years chasing their approval, begging for their attention, and getting nothing in return. Now I had finally drawn a line, and I wasn't going to let them drag me back into their toxic drama. I deleted the message without responding. I didn't owe her or any of them anything. The messages didn't stop there. A few days later, I got a text from my Aunt Linda, the same one who had guilt-tripped me before. "Emily," she wrote, "I just don't understand. Your siblings are hurting. I know it's been tough. But maybe it's time to let go of the past. Can't you just forgive them?" I felt a wave of irritation sweep over me as I read the message. Forgive them? For what? For ignoring me for years. For treating me like I didn't matter. For excluding me from their most important moments? The idea of forgiving them just to keep the peace felt like a slap in the face. Tyler noticed my frustration when I showed him the message. "Another guilt trip?" he asked, glancing at my phone. "Yep," I muttered, shaking my head. "They don't get it. They want me to just move on. Like it didn't happen." "Of course they do," Tyler said, his voice soft but firm. "They're not upset about what happened, Emily. They're upset because they can't control you anymore. They've spent your whole life treating you like an afterthought. And now that you're setting boundaries, they can't handle it." I smiled, appreciating his support more than ever. He was right. They weren't upset that I wasn't at their weddings. They were upset because they no longer had power over me. It wasn't long before my mom started calling again. I had blocked her number, but she kept trying to reach me through different lines. One afternoon, I noticed an unknown number calling me. I didn't hesitate. I picked up the phone and immediately recognized her voice. "Emily," she said, her tone soft but laced with disappointment, "we need to talk. This can't go on forever. You've pushed everyone away. Your siblings are heartbroken. Don't you think you should reconsider?" I took a deep breath, trying to remain calm, though my patience was wearing thin. "No, Mom, I'm not reconsidering. This isn't just about the wedding. It's about everything that happened before. All the times I begged to be included and got turned away." Her voice wavered. "But they're your family. Don't you want to make things right?" I shook my head, not even sure if she could hear the bitterness in my voice. "Family doesn't treat you like you don't matter. Family doesn't leave you out of their lives when you need them most, and then come running back when it's convenient for them. I'm not doing this anymore." There was silence on the other end of the line, and for a moment, I thought she might finally understand. But instead, she let out a small sigh, her voice cracking with emotion. "You're making a mistake, Emily. You'll regret it one day." I closed my eyes, exhausted from the conversation. "I don't think I will, Mom. I don't need to chase after their approval anymore. I'm happy. I'm doing what's best for me, and for the first time in my life, I feel at peace." She didn't respond, and the silence between us was deafening. Finally, I spoke, my voice firm and unwavering. "I'm not going to apologize for standing up for myself. You all had your chance, and you chose to ignore me. I'm done." Without waiting for her to say anything else, I hung up the phone. For the first time in years, I didn't feel the need to explain myself to her. I didn't need her approval or validation anymore. The following week, the texts started pouring in. First, Chris sent a message, accusing me of ruining the family and calling me selfish for not inviting them. Then Mike jumped in, saying I was holding on to petty grudges and destroying relationships. I didn't even bother reading all of them. Instead, I blocked each one of them in turn. Tyler noticed the change in me as I deleted their messages. "You're not even fazed anymore," he said, his voice full of admiration. "I'm really proud of you." I smiled, feeling a sense of peace wash over me. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was finally in control. I wasn't a victim anymore. I wasn't chasing after their love or approval. I had my own life, and I was finally living it on my terms. The silence that followed was almost blissful. I didn't have to constantly worry about their drama, their guilt trips, or their need to make me feel small. Tyler and I were building our future, and that was all that mattered. A few months later, things were quiet. Tyler and I had settled into our married life, and while my family hadn't reached out again, I couldn't help but feel like they were still simmering in the background. I wasn't sure if they would ever truly understand or accept my decision, but I knew one thing for sure: I wasn't going back. Tyler and I had recently gone on a weekend trip together, and as we sat on the balcony of our hotel room, looking out at the sunset, I turned to him and smiled. "I'm so glad I have you," I said quietly, my heart full. He took my hand and squeezed it. "You deserve this, Em. You deserve love, peace, and happiness. I'm so proud of you." I leaned in and kissed him, feeling more content than I ever had. For so long, I had spent my life trying to fit into a family who didn't see me for who I was. But now, I knew my worth. I wasn't some afterthought, or a forgotten sibling. I was Emily, the woman who was finally standing up for herself, creating a life surrounded by people who loved her unconditionally. And that, I realized, was all I ever needed. As the days passed, I stopped checking my phone for messages from family. I realized I wasn't waiting for their approval anymore. I was moving forward, living my life with people who truly mattered. No matter what they thought, no matter how hard they tried to rewrite the past, I had everything I needed. And the truth was, they were the ones who lost out. For the first time in my life, I felt like I had everything I'd ever wanted: love, peace, and the freedom to live authentically. And that was enough. It always had been.